We've got quite a few items on the agenda today, so I'll start at item 1, membership of Cabinet. Are there any apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
None. Okay, declarations of interest. Can I ask anybody in attendance, particularly Cabinet members, any interest, can you declare it and ensure that the officer receives it by the end of the meeting? Minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a approver? We'll move them. Thank you. Admission of the public. No items are going to be taken in private. Deputations and petitions.
None, Chair.
None. So we'll go on to item 6. Questions by member of the public. No questions. Questions by elected members. Item 7.
None, Chair.
None. Councillor Munro, Alison Munro, is here today and she's going to defer her item to item 10, and that's on the Fenny Bridge. So we move to item 8, Kirklees Major Transport Scheme, West Yorkshire Transport Fund and the City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement Programmes. Councillor Crook.
Thanks very much, Chair. It's loud. This report, as item 8 on our agenda, provides an update on progress towards delivery of our Kirklees Major Transport Schemes within the West Yorkshire Transport Fund and City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement. In light of the very significant inflationary and other cost increases over recent years, it's no longer possible to deliver this programme as previously envisaged. This report sets out a new funding strategy and project reprofiling request in order to deliver the maximum possible of our major transport schemes within the available funding envelope. It also seeks delegated authority to progress the reprofiled schemes as described. This is a really positive proposal which maximises delivery of our programme of work, maximises benefit for our Kirklees residents, and I'm very pleased to propose we adopt the officer recommendations stated at paragraphs 8.1 to 8.6. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook, and I'll second that, and all the recommendations are set out in paragraph 8 of this report. So can I have a show of hands? All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So we're moving on to item 9 on the agenda, damper, mould and condensation. It's to receive an update. Councillor Crook.
Thanks, Chair. This report provides an update on the improvements made both in terms of system and capacity in place to address issues of damp, mould and condensation in our housing stock and to meet our obligations to the Decent Home Standard. The transformation of our approach is outlined over the last year from December 2022 to October 2023, during which time the service meaningfully increased both external and internal resource available and closed 1,606 cases of damp, mould and condensation, which represents a very significant and positive achievement. The report also details outstanding cases as of October 2023, along with further planned programme improvements and costed budget allocations required to close remaining cases and to meet any new demand. This report recognises the achievements and progress that have been made to date, as well as proposals to ensure capacity is equal to demand going forward, and I propose that we adopt officer recommendations at 6.1.1 to 6.1.3 and in line with the recommendations from the Homes and Neighbourhood Improvement Board at paragraph 8.1.
Thank you, Councillor Crook, and I'll second that. So all those support the report? Thank you. So we're going to move on to item 10, which is this disposable open space at Fenny Lane in Almondbury, Huddersfield. So, Councillor Turner.
Okay. Thanks, Chair. This report today is brought here in response to the objections received as part of advertising the Council's intention to dispose of the open space at Fenny Lane, Almondbury. As a Cabinet note, the objections have all had a response from officers, and most of those actually relate to planning issues. So I ask Cabinet to approve this report today and allow us to proceed with the timescales as set out on page 70 of today's agenda, and move to allowing this piece of land to go forward for disposal in consultation with the relevant director and portfolio holder.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Can I bring in Councillor Munro?
Thank you, Councillor Scott. So I'd just like to make a few comments in relation to the officers' comments. And the first one is in relation to flooding and drainage. While the officer is stating that just about every single item that's been raised as an objection will be dealt with in the planning process, In regard to flooding and drainage, it's stated that housing sites allocated in the local plan were assessed both individually and cumulatively. However, the flood risk and drainage policy at the time did not include a cumulative assessment, and I've actually made that comment in the recent consultation on flooding and drainage. And I don't believe it was assessed cumulatively. And I'd like to see some evidence to show me that it was assessed cumulatively. Secondly, traffic and highway. During the process so far, I raised the issue of an increase in traffic. This was refuted by officers who stated there will be no change in traffic on highways from this development. However, this report says something to the contrary and admits there will likely be changes, an increase in traffic. So there's a bit of well, it's inconsistent. The comments are inconsistent, and so while most of the issues that have been raised are planning issues, it's almost, I feel it's almost as if it is a foregone conclusion that this is going to be voted through today, and that once again the comments of local residents basically are just being, you know, run over roughshod. And while it may be allocated land in the local plan, I still feel that people have genuine concerns, and we shouldn't be just ignoring those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Councillor Turner, do you want to respond?
Briefly, Chair, as I pointed out, this report simply is in response to the objections. The principle of disposal was agreed excuse me, a couple of cabinets ago. This land was allocated in 2019 in the local plan for housing. And again, as I pointed out, most of these objections will be picked up in the planning process, which we know is very rigorous and will address all these issues at the time. And again, when it's planning, the residents will have the same opportunity to object and make any observations during that process.
Councillor Munro, supplementary?
I haven't got one, thank you.
I think what's key here is what Councillor Turner's actually said. A lot of these issues can be taken up by representation at planning. So all those in favour to support this report? Thank you. So we'll move on to item 11, Kirklees School funding arrangements and financial year for 2024 to 25. Elizabeth.
Yeah, very briefly, we've repeatedly stated our intention in Kirklees to, despite financial pressures, protect and provide for our most vulnerable, young and old. And we're continuing to do that with our dedicated schools grant. I'm pleased to recommend this report to Cabinet, as in its preparation it shows how our school community has come together to face these difficult financial circumstances caused by central mismanagement at the national level. Officers and Schools Forum and educational leads have consulted and discussed some changes to the way that the allocations are going to be made. And I do think this is the very best practice of a best example of place-based working I've seen, and bodes well for the future of education management in Kirklees.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Do I have a seconder? Yeah. Councillor Kendrick. Do you want to make a comment, Councillor Kendrick, and move straight to the vote? Yeah. Thanks ever so much. So can we show our support for that report? Everyone's favour? Carried. So we're moving on to item 12. That's Kirklees Calderdale School-Centred Initial Teaching Training, which is known as SKIT. Proposals to enter into a strategic partnership from August 2024. Councillor Reynolds.
Again, another good example of local partners coming together to provide a continuing future commitment to education in Kirklees. Inconsidered national decisions made it necessary, but we will be resolute in continuing to invest in our children's future, but by providing the excellent teacher training opportunities close to home with our delivery programme alongside our partners. I recommend this report.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Could I have a seconder? That's Councillor Kendrick. Any comments, anyone? Councillor Kendrick?
Just to say, we've always had a really good and effective initial teacher training unit, and this is one way of taking it forward for the future and continuing to have local effective training within Kirklees.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. So it's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That concludes the business today. Thank you for